Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Two Whiskies podcast from the Whisky Cask Club. My name is Danny Pagioni, as usual, and today I'm joined by two very special people. The one, why don't you introduce yourself, Lewis?
Yeah, so I'm Lewis. I'm one of the sales directors at the Whisky Cask Club and a long-time lover of whiskey.
And you're from somewhere in particular that's quite important to us.
Yeah, so I'm from Stirling originally, so plenty of Scotch distilleries around there.
Yeah, I'm sure. And also joined by, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, so I'm Arnon Mankong. I'm a Whisky Sommelier in Thailand. I was 2 years ago. I got an award named that I'm the youngest Whisky Sommelier in Asia.
Youngest Whisky Sommelier in Asia. So we're in great company, as you guys can see. As well, we're in a great location. We're here on Sukhumvit 24 in the heart of Bangkok at the Flight 24 bar. Thank you so much to Kun Wee for letting us use the space and also to try his fantastic array of whiskies. It's one of the best array of whiskies we've seen in Bangkok, so it's a real pleasure to be here today. But I want to start with you, Arnon. So Thailand obviously is a country in Southeast Asia. It's a long way from Scotland. So what got you initially into Scotch whiskey and why are you so passionate about it?
For me, the reason why I'm passionate into Scotch whiskey, actually not Scotch whiskey, but every whiskey, but I quite love the traditional of the Scottish people. The real reason is quite childish for me, but when I was young, my mother always giving me inspiration about how the gentleman look. She always showed me the movie, like James Bond's, like a very, very old traditional movie.
Yeah.
And that movie, every movie, actors always drinking whiskey, right? And they're so charming. They like drinking and sipping, sniffing, and they say, "Oh, this is Dalmore 1975," something like that. And
Right.
When I was young, I say, "Wow, it's so cool." That is the first step that I go into.
Do they all look like Lewis? Is Lewis
Yeah,
everybody looks like Lewis, right?
Probably yes. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. So for you, it was very much like a pop culture thing.
Right,
You got
right,
into it
right.
from the pop culture, from James Bond, from all of that stuff. And do you have a particular favorite whiskey?
For me, I tend to love whiskey that's quite peaty but aging in cherry cask. And most of them are coming from like Highland Park, Bromo, maybe very rare cask from Talisker. That's some of Talisker aging in cherry, but quite rare. That is the kind of whiskey I like. Not too much peaty, quite raw peaty, and aging in cherry. That is my favorite.
So you like the combination of the rough with the smooth kind of thing. So you like the heaviness of the peaty, but then the sort of sweetness of the sherry. Okay, well, that's interesting. Lewis, what about you? What's your preference?
So I'm not usually a fan of peated whiskies, but I'm going for Freud.
The Freud.
Just the medicinal flavours.
Yeah, it's like cough medicine. Right?
Yeah, that's it.
Something like
Sherry
that.
Lafroy is nice as well.
Yeah. And Arnon, have you been to Scotland? Have you seen the?
Yeah, I have been to Scotland, but that time I quite young. I don't have that much knowledge about the whiskey yet.
Right.
It's about like 6-7 years ago, and I hope that I'm gonna go to Scotland next year or something like that to learn more about the
A
whiskey.
little bit more about the whiskey. Well, we're not only here to just discuss the whiskey, we're also here to taste it. So I think we've got some Bowmore that we want to try, if you wouldn't mind coming over. So Bowmore is an Islay whiskey, and Islay is our focus for today's video. So, you know, an interesting thing that I think about Islay is it's a very small island off the western coast of Scotland, but yet it has so much history with whiskey and so many distilleries. I'm wondering from you guys, do you have any indication why that is? Why is Islay such a hotspot for whiskey production, and why do people love it so much?
I think it's quite a Thai wording, but I believe that for a lot of people around the world, they're thinking Islay Scotch whiskey is a pity, right? As durian. Have you heard durian? Yes.
Durian. Yeah.
A lot of people in Thailand say that you're gonna love it or hate it.
Right.
That is exactly same thing with the Islay Scotch whiskey. I think that people who love peaty, they're gonna love it, and people who hate peaty, they're gonna hate it.
Right.
That is how I'm gonna say about the Islay Scotch whiskey.
Yeah. What about you, Lewis?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, it's a love or hate. It's like Marmite. Love or hate it.
It is a very Marmite.
Islay's most famous for peated whiskey, so
that's
where it comes from.
That makes sense. So what we've got right now is a Bowmore 15. So let's have a little taste of this, and let's see what we think. So you do get that sherry hint, right? When you first take that sniff. I see what you mean actually, because we had some Ardbeg before before we got rolling, and that's a very heavily peated whiskey, right? It's almost hard to stomach.
It's very much a peat bomb, Ardbeg.
Peat bomb.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a peat bomb, exactly.
I love this word.
Yeah,
Peat bomb.
peat bomb's a great word. So it is very much a peat bomb. This one is much more palatable. Coming back to the subject of Islay. So you're from Scotland. Have you yourself been to Islay? And
When I was very young, yeah.
very young.
We went around some of the distilleries, but I was way too young to drink it, so.
Right. So is there any reason that why the Islay whiskies, they're known for their peat?
So I think all distilleries are most used to use peat, but obviously there's other ways of doing it, but they kind of stuck it out, I suppose, for lack of a better term.
Yeah. For me, I would never think that Thailand and Scottish whiskey are actually is so popular here, but you know, we've been to obviously many bars in and around Bangkok, and there's a lot of bars with very nice Scottish whiskey, and it seems to sell.
Right.
So there is a market here for Scottish whiskey, and it's very popular.
Right. I believe that in Thailand, people only focus on two countries. We see there's Scotch and Japanese.
Scotch and Japan.
Yes.
Right.
There is some on Taiwanese, but it's really niche market.
Right.
But for the Irish, I rarely see people looking for them.
Right.
Most of them are Scotch and Japanese. Actually, people tend to think Japanese whiskey are a bit more luxury than Scotch.
Is that right?
Yeah, I think it's two things. First, that people in Thailand, they love super active and loving Japanese products.
culture.
Japanese culture. People think that people in Japan are quite more neat.
Sophisticated.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
So that is making a lot of people thinking that Japanese whiskey tend to be produce better products. That is what people in Thailand thought about it.
That's interesting. There are some Japanese whiskies that also use Scottish blends, right?
I believe so, yes. I think there's a few companies that do. Kaleo as well.
Kaleo
is going to be one of your pillars in Johnny Walker, so one of the four Lowlands, Highlands, Bayside, and Islay. Four pillars. Kaleo represents Islay for that.
So, in Johnny Walker and in these blends, they are taking a lot of the single malts, the aged single malts from the various regions of Scotland. Is that correct?
Yeah. So in a blend you can have any number of whiskies. You can have 2, you can have 50. There's a blended whiskey, of course. You can have blended malts. You can have different kinds of blends.
Of course, that's as well what makes a cask investment quite an interesting prospect, right? Because not only are you looking to sell to other investors, but there is also other outlets.
Independent bottlers, they want to bottle single malts, they also want to bottle blends. So if you can sell to either, and the way they're going to use the whiskey. That's the main thing.
Yeah. So Arnon, do you have a whiskey cask? Are you invested in it?
Yeah, I have some, but to be honest, mostly I invest in the bottle of whiskey.
In the bottles?
Yeah, I rather invest in the cask.
Right.
The reason is two things. I think is the first reason and the biggest reason is that to invest in the whiskey cask, you have to have a very good relationship with the distiller. Right. If you don't have it, you cannot buy the cask.
Right.
And that is the reason why the company have a super
Right.
That helping a lot of people who didn't have a good relationship with the distiller to easier to buy a cask.
It is interesting because I think that's the key thing about a cask investment is there's a degree of trust involved in who you're dealing with.
Right.
Because you're not getting the product, right? So when you buy a bottle, you're receiving the bottle, you're keeping it, and you're waiting for it to age, or do you keep it with a third party, or do you keep the bottle yourself?
Normally I keep the bottle myself.
Keep the bottle yourself.
Normally.
And can I ask what's your collection looking like? What's the
now
what's the Macallans? You got some.
I to be honest, I rarely stock my clients. I mostly stock the independent bottler, and most of them are from Highland Park, or from Talisker, from La France.
Okay.
Yeah. I stock some Japanese whiskey, but Thai people loving Japanese whiskey.
Right. Well, it's good to be your friend now. Now I know you have all these nice bottles of whiskey. That's fantastic. Okay, so obviously, are you keeping that for investment, or are you keeping that for your personal use and for your friends, or?
To be honest, I tend. At first, I think that I'm gonna invest 70% and 30% keeping for myself. Yeah. But accidentally, it's allowed 60-70% for myself.
No. Anyway.
To be honest, nowadays I invest less than I think.
Right. I mean, that's fair enough, but yeah, I think it's obviously I know that there are some bottles that you can get super great return on, but I think it's a little bit more challenging to get that return on a bottle as opposed to a cask, because I guess a bottle, the exit you need to really sell to a customer, right?
Right.
That's the deal with selling bottles. I think with the cask, there's far more options available.
For sure. You do have the option of selling to a customer, like a collector or
Yeah.
another investor, but then obviously you've got options of bottlers, auctions, blenders, whatever.
Yeah.
There's a lot more options in that sense, yeah.
Correct.